Ladies and gentlemen, the topic today is about how to 拍谁，Hey, hello. 大家好，欢迎收看今天的好想讲英文。
Noah,
Hey,
you need help.
可是我觉得我讲的不错啊。
Welcome to the second episode of Power Up Your Presentations.
Power.
Talking tips. There's an idea of it's not what you say, it's how you say it. First thing we can talk about is speaking techniques.
演讲的技巧。
We want to focus on speaking clearly, so speaking with clarity, and also some variety.
我知道 variety 是那个多样性，就是讲的更有变化性的。那 clarity 是
Clarity is just so you don't want to like mumble, like.
所以那种喃喃自语就是 mumble 的感觉。
Right, and so you don't want any of that. But one of the first things we can talk about is verbal fillers. Like 应该追词吧？
就是，然后那个，
对。What you can do is, you practice. You try to just take your time and slow down, either record myself or have someone listen and count how many ahs I have.
傲是
So ahs are those verbal fillers, like ah,
赘词的意思，
Right, but there's another problem. Sometimes people can be really monotone.
语调很平，
So they sound kind of dull or boring or flat.
都
D-U-L-L, dull, like 无聊. What do you do to avoid all that?
我听中文的话是讲说抑扬顿挫。大家好，我是 Noah。
That's a good example. So you have some variety. So sometimes you speak at a high pitch, and then sometimes you speak at a lower pitch. And then another thing is just try to have some extra confidence.
可是我要怎么样有那种自信的感觉？
We'll talk about how to look confident in our next episode, part 3. Check it out. But the first thing to do is, just have faith in yourself that you have a good presentation to give.
即便要用装的，也要相信自己很棒。
Tell yourself, I can do it. So another solution is to emphasize certain words of a sentence.
所以就是同样一个句子，然后你强调不同的字，里面就会有不同的意思。
Exactly. Do you think you can try?
我猜看看好了。
Okay, so you're gonna guess. First one.
OK，
I think we need some new ideas.
感觉好像是我比较这样。
Right, so it's me. Nobody else thinks it. Okay, next one. I think we need some new ideas.
感觉是那个 new， 所以我们需要新的 idea。
Ding, 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 ding. Exactly.
还有什么要特别注意的呢？
Oh, of course. You have to know your audience. So you have to ask yourself, like, who are you speaking to? 你跟谁讲话？
对，比如说我是一个科学家，然后我要跟小朋友讲说，各位小朋友们啊，请大家每天都要定时定量摄取一氧化二氢，
什么？
就是喝水啦。
Oh, that's kind of a technical term, right? So you're using something that we call jargon.
专有名词或术语。
But there's one other thing,
One more，
and that's your speech structure.
整个架构。
架构。
起承转合。
English kind of has that, but there's an idea I want to give you called the sandwich approach. 三明治。
Why？
It's because it's a really good picture of how we build speeches. So you have your opening,
Opening，
your body, and your closing, or your conclusion. And that's the sandwich approach.
不过我知道我们中文在演讲的时候啊，我们的方式比较不一样，我们会绕来绕去，然后最后一层一层接上去，最后再砰。
爆开了. So in English, we like to have, sort of sections where each section will have sort of a topic sentence or some kind of sentence that says, this is what I'm about to tell you.
Opening 有什么特别要注意的吗？
You need something called a hook. Grabs your audience's attention.
像讲笑话，
Right, so you could tell a joke or a really touching story. Or you could ask your audience a question.
让他们反思。
Especially if you're doing something like you're trying to sell a product to a group of people. You don't want to say, today I'm going to talk to you about my product. You would say, do you want to have a new life?
Yes, I want.
Then buy this product.
Okay.
Okay.
How?
And so an opening like that really catches people's attention.
那结尾的时候我们要怎么做呢？
To get a good closing, you might have a call to action.
叫人去做，
Kind of like that. So I tell the audience they need to do something.
就像是想要6块肌吗？现在开始仰卧起坐吧。
I'll never get 6块肌.
Okay.
Other things is you might kind of end with an inspiring quote. 引用别人的话来当你的那个演讲的结尾. And then you'll say, thank you for your attention, or thanks for listening. But not thanks for your listening.
Yeah.
Or another way is just to end with a question. Now that you've heard my speech, what will you do? Something nice and strong. Now, with speech structure, another thing we can think about is audience interaction.
让那个互动是双向的，而不是单向，这样子塞他们脑袋。
So you might ask them a question or have people raise their hand, some kind of question where people can get involved.
可是有一个部分我真的很不擅长哎，就是关于 Q&A 的部分，我还蛮害怕的。
Something that might happen is they ask you a question and you don't know the answer.
除了讲 I don't know 之外，有没有什么办法可以解决这个尴尬的状况
Most important thing, don't say, I don't know.
？So do what?
What do? You might say, oh, that's a good question. I need to research that a little more.
有答案，可是好像没有答案。
Right, so you answer it without answering it. So for instance, you might say, oh, that's really interesting, but it's not really related to my presentation. Or I'm not very experienced with that, but I can look that up for you.
很巧妙的闪过这样子。
Right, and so that's how you can deal with Q&A. And if the speaker, if the person asking the question says something you don't understand, you might say, oh, do you mean? And then try to restate their question. 重复他们刚问你的问题，就确定你真的了解，真的懂他们问你的问题。These are some good things to keep in mind when you are working on your talking tip, when you're working on preparing a speech, and have some good back and forth with your audience.
那这就是我们今天的
好想讲英文。
如果喜欢我们的影片呢，在上面按赞、留言、分享哦。
And I want to ask you a question to leave in the comments. Have you ever given an English presentation before? What was it about? How did you feel? Or if you haven't given one, if you could give a TED Talk, what would you talk about?
哎，Joe，我们下一集要讲什么？
Oh, so for episode 3 of Power Up Your Presentations, we're going to be talking about body language.
Body language。
See you next time.
拜拜。